Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this webinar on corporate social responsibility at Bachem. My name is Simon Fessmeyer. I'm an equity analyst at Bank Vontobel in Zurich, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. Before we start the presentation, let me remind you of one housekeeping item. You can post questions anytime during the webinar. You find this function at the bottom of your screen. Our speaker today is Dr. Franz Saladin. Franz is the Corporate Social Responsibility Compliance Manager at Bachem. Without further delay, it's my pleasure to hand over to you, Franz. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Simon, for the kind introduction. And also from my side, ladies and gentlemen, warm welcome to this seminar this morning. I'm trying to take control now over the slides. There we go. First, before I start with my presentation, I want to tell you a little bit about the company Bachem. With these introductory slides, Bachem is the leader in peptide manufacturing globally. Actually, this year, Bachem will be turning 50 years old. It has great experience and expertise in the field of, as I said, production of peptides for research, clinical development, and commercial applications. And Bachem actually operates internationally, has its headquarters here in Switzerland, and locations, I will show that a bit later, in Europe, US, and in Asia. We are actually listed in the Swiss Stock Exchange. And if you need any further information about Bachem, please visit our new website, bachem.com. Yes, Bachem is dedicated to peptides and oligonucleotides. We are working on a global scale. And as I mentioned already, we're public since 1998. We provide products for research, clinical development, and commercial applications to the pharmaceutical and biotech companies worldwide. If we look at our business partners, you can see that it's mainly within the pharma and biotech sectors, but also other important customers we serve. As I pointed out already, we are operating globally. Our headquarters in Bubendorf in Switzerland, second site in Vienna, in Valais in Switzerland. We have a site in UK, St. Helens, two sites in California, Torrance and Vista. And established in 2018, we have a sales office in Tokyo, Japan. Most of the sites operate under GMP. That very briefly, introduction to Bachem as a company, as a group. And again, if you need more information, if you want more information, please do visit our website. Now coming to my presentation about corporate social responsibility at Bachem. This is the agenda. I want to introduce some words to terminology, what we are talking about, why CSR, corporate social responsibility, is important to us as a company, how we are organized, what we have done so far in the field of sustainability, what is the relation of Bachem to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and then what is material, what are the important topics for Bachem, where do we look at more closely, how do we set targets within these topics, and of course I'll be happy to answer any of your questions if I can, at the end of this presentation. Starting with the terminology, I know people talk about corporate social responsibility, they talk about ESG, environmental, social, and governance, they talk about sustainability. All these terms can actually be used simultaneously. In my view, and in our view, it's more important to have, if you talk about sustainability, corporate social responsibility, to have really a commitment from the top management. You need the tone from the top. You have as a company to know where do you have impact on social and environmental issues, and that's where you have to focus on. It's important in my view, and I'm happy that Bachem is working like this, it's important to have a pragmatic and moreover an honest way forward. No window dressing, do what you can and talk about what you're doing. And that's the last point, communicate your intentions and achievements, but again, no window dressing, that will not work out on the long term. So no matter what terminology you want to use, these are the important points you have to look at. For Bachem, sustainability is one of the 5 key strategic topics. Next to people and culture, innovation, technology, customer centricity and services, and operational excellence and quality. So that's already a strong statement towards sustainability as a company. But why is it important? Why do we invest as a company in corporate social responsibility? First of all, we, that is board of directors, executive committee, we are convinced that our success can only be secured in the long term through commitment to CSR. But of course, our sustainability performance is important to other stakeholders too. Society more and more judges companies by their social responsibility performance. Customers, they want to ensure that their suppliers meet the social and ecological standards they have set themselves. We have many large pharmaceutical companies as our customers, and they have really strong and ambitious goals they set to themselves, and they want to make sure that their supply chain upholds these principles as well. Employees more and more increasingly expect value-oriented corporate management. If you're trying to hire well-qualified young people, it's important to show them not only that they get a salary at the end of the month, but also that they have a company at their side that has a purpose. Legislation, more and more mandates companies to monitor and report not only on their economic performance, but also on their dealings with the environment and the society. We had just a voting a couple of weeks ago in Switzerland going exactly into that direction. And the tendency globally is going into that direction as well. And last but not least, investors, they have realized over the last decades that only responsible companies can achieve good long-term profits, and they really focus on companies that take care of the environment and their social impact. So these are the reasons why Bachem as a company invests into corporate social responsibility. This is how we're organized. We have a CSR leadership team. It's very important that you get, as I mentioned before, the tone from the top. So we have with Günther Leudl, the CTO, we have somebody from the executive committee being the sponsor of this whole project, of this whole process of sustainability within the company of Bachem. I'm happy to be the CSR compliance manager, and I have a team of all site managers of all our sites globally. Frank, Henrik, from Bachem Americas, Martin from Vienna, Julie from UK, Gary from Japan, and I am actually the champion for the site here in Bubendorf. We all have our local CSR contacts, locally, being in HR, in HSC, in sourcing, in quality, in IT. So we have a large team, but it's led by the CSR leadership team. And I'm very happy that I really have the commitment of all the site managers of our sites globally. So we have the tone from the top and the tone from the middle. Where do we come from? It's not that we haven't been doing anything in sustainability in the past decades. Actually, Bachem has a commitment to the Responsible Care Program, or has upheld this commitment for over 2 decades. But we then implemented a corporate social responsibility management system in 2020. And we initiated that with an in-depth materiality analysis that we conducted in 2019. We involved key stakeholders and we aligned it, I will come to that later, we aligned it with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. On the top right on this slide, you see the executive committee really working with me in a workshop towards this materiality analysis. What is materiality? What are the important topics of a company? I quote here from the Global Reporting Initiative, relevant topics, the material topics are those that can reasonably be considered important for reflecting the organization's economic, environmental, and social impacts, or influencing decisions of stakeholders. So, relevant topics, either you have as a company a large impact, economically, environmentally, or socially, or it influences the decisions of your stakeholders. And any one of those 2 arguments can make a topic relevant for you as a company. Top right, just one slide or one graph showing that we really are doing things or have been doing things already. I won't go into too much detail of this graph, but it shows how much energy and greenhouse gas emissions we will be saving in the coming years, because we have an agreement with this energy agency of the Swiss private sector here in Switzerland for our 2 sites here in Switzerland. So it's not that we haven't been doing anything, it's just more strategically settled now. And another proof that we have been doing things all right already is that we got at the end of last year EcoVadis Silver rating. That's an assessment tool for corporate social responsibility, and this rating indicates that Bachem ranks already in the top quarter of companies assessed over this platform. As I said, we align our topics and targets and CSR initiatives also with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the so-called SDGs. These SDGs, they were set in 2015 by the United Nations General Assembly, and they are a collection of 17 interlinked global goals designed to be, as they call it, quote, a blueprint to achieve a better, more sustainable future for all. And that's what we follow too as a company, Bachem. Of course, Bachem offers and delivers highest quality products and services to its customers and supporting the development of new medicines and drugs. So in our view, our prime contribution to sustainability is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. So that's the primary focus of a company like Bachem. But still, Bachem is fully committed to improving not only its economic, but also its social and environmental bottom line. We take responsibility towards employees, responsibility towards the environment and society, and customers likewise. Maybe one or the other of you have heard of the term triple bottom line. So it's not only the financial side, it's not only the business side, it's the environmental and the social side, which is equally important. That's the triple bottom line. We actually found that from the 17 SDGs, we have an impact on, or a stronger impact on 4 of those SDGs. So that's the one I mentioned already, SDG 3, ensuring healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. We provide a full range of services to the pharma and biotech industries, and we enable our customers, always in a spirit of partnership, to improve health and increase life expectancy. That's our primary focus. But we also, SDG 4, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Our performance as a company is predicated on very high educational achievements of our workforce, and therefore continuously increase the number of youth and adults who have relevant skills for employment and also for entrepreneurship. We also, SDG number 8, promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all. We are, I pointed that out already, aware that the economic performance achieved together with our customers is the driving force behind sustainable development. Economy is the driving force behind sustainable development. And therefore, the company puts a strong focus on continuous growth through innovation. Without our economic performance, the other sustainable goals are not achievable. And last but not least, SDG number 12, we ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. We want, as a company, to contribute to the overall goal of decoupling economic growth from adverse impacts on human health and the environment, caring for the safety of employees and the surrounding communities. So yes, we want to grow. Yes, we want economic growth, but we want to decouple this growth from negative effects it can have. Now I was talking about this materiality analysis we conducted. So these are actually the 20 topics we thought are most relevant for Bachem. Again, have either a high impact economically, socially, or environmentally, or are important for our stakeholders, how they see us. I will go through those quickly. First of all, under the title of being an attractive employer, we have occupational health and safety. We want to achieve a high level of safety and health for all persons working at Bachem, employees and externals. We want to provide equal terms of employment, or we do provide equal terms of employment to all employees hired. We prevent adverse social impacts by upholding commonly accepted labor standards and refrain from discrimination. We promote vocational training, which is very important here in Switzerland, but we also want to bring this abroad, and we invest in performance and career development. We attract, retain and develop talented and committed staff. Under the title of safeguarding the environment, we of course want to monitor and reduce energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. Same concerning resource consumption and the impact on the environment. We want to manage the transport and disposal of effluents and waste in order to maximize safety and minimize environmental impacts. And we are constantly working on redesigning products and processes to minimize the use and generation of hazardous substances and to reduce environmental impact. Acting ethically for us means that we establish procurement practices that lessen negative economic, social or environmental impacts in the supply chain, that we omit corrupt practices, compete fairly and adhere to integrity, governance and responsible business conduct, that we respect and comply with the principles expressed in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, that we comply with all laws and the regulations in the social, economic and environmental area, that's clear, and that we maintain a dialogue with people or groups having an interest in Bachem or that can affect or be affected by us as a company. We want to guarantee highest quality in products and services. For that, we uphold standards to guarantee that products and services fully satisfy customers and comply with the regulatory environment. That we strive for our processes and our tasks to be carried out using less resources per output. We continuously expand Bachem's know-how in chemistry and technology and promote growth through creativity and adaptability. We optimize the number of deliveries day by day, made without any error regarding time, place, price, quantity, or quality. And of course, we handle all information responsibly and conforming to laws and guidelines to protect customer privacy, as well as Bachem's intellectual property. So these, again, are the 20 topics where we as a company think we have the highest impact economically, socially, and environmentally. That these are topics that our stakeholders find important if they talk about our company. Now, these were the topics. Now, how do we set targets, goals within these topics? We have actually three means of how we do this. We have so-called, I will come back to that later, so-called core targets with a long-standing emphasis, and that's clearly something set top-down by the board of directors. But we also have initiatives that come bottom-up by the sites. And thirdly, we have sprints also by the sites, by single people, single employees who have an idea, spark an idea how we can improve our sustainability performance, and within 2 months try to achieve some results, get some results in one of those topics. So it's a three-way forward. Now for the next 5-year period, we actually identified, or the executive committee identified 4 core targets we want to put special focus on, as I said, for the next 5 to 10 years. So these are the top-down core targets. We want to put a strong focus on occupational health and safety. We want to put a focus on diversity and equal opportunity. We want to monitor and reduce our energy consumption, and we want to monitor and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. So these will be most likely the goals that will come top down from the board of directors within this year. And we will be working on that. Apart from these core targets, we will also, and we are already working on our own supply chain. So we have in place already, but we're still improving on that. We have a CSR risk assessment along our whole supply chain. Like our customers, large pharmaceutical industries, giving part of their responsibility to us as their supplier, we give some of our responsibility along to our supply chain. We want to see how they deal with the environment, how they deal with society, to help sustainability on a global scale as a company, Bachem, looking forward and looking backward in our supply chain. From this year's, or say last year's annual report, also we have new sustainability reporting in place. We report, meanwhile, in accordance with the Global Reporting Initiative called GRI, the core option. And you can, of course, download or look at our annual sustainability report on our website, bachem.com. So this, ladies and gentlemen, was my presentation. I wanted to show you that sustainability was and is important for Bachem, corporate social responsibility. It is one of our 5 strategic key topics. It is, we are convinced, a key success factor, and that's why we invest into corporate social responsibility. We are at the moment, we have been already, but we are more strongly now putting this commitment into practice, improving our triple bottom line of social, environmental, and economic output. And of course, at the same time, we meet the ever increasing demands of our customers and the other stakeholders I pointed out before. So that's, for the moment, the end of my presentation. I will be happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Franz, for this excellent presentation. We actually do have a few questions on the chat already. The first question relates to employees. You've mentioned employees quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, what will change for your employees in their daily work lives?
Well, thank you for the question, Simon. Actually, first of all, we hope to trigger additional awareness amongst employees towards the topics that we find are important for the Bachem. That's the topics I showed you on this slide. So trigger some awareness. Oh, my company has a large impact on this environmental issue. So I should, in my day-to-day work, also have an eye on this issue. That's the first point. And as I pointed out with these sprints, actually employees are invited to bring up their own ideas how they can how the sustainability performance of Bachem can be improved. So that's the second point. And thirdly, I showed you that some targets will be given, some goals will be given top down. So I do personally expect that these will appear in the personnel assessment system of our employees. So that's what I expect to be the impact of this enforced CSR management system that we have in place now. But you can also look at it the other way around. I showed you in one of the first slides why we as a company do invest in corporate social responsibility. And there I showed you that employees more and more look for meaningfulness in their employment. So actually, yes, a lot of things will change, or things will change for employees, but also we, with this initiative and by having this success factor as sustainability, we also hope to attract new employees to Bachem.
In your presentation, you're making reference to the Sustainability Development Goals. And the question on the chat is why you chose these 4 goals and how they relate to the other sustainability goals of the United Nations.
That's a good question. Of course, you could find ways of showing some sort of impact to all of those 17 Sustainable Development Goals. But it's always important when you talk about sustainability, talk about corporate social responsibility, to really have a clear focus. Where is your largest leverage? Where is your largest impact? And work on that. If you don't do that, if you don't focus, there's a danger of getting lost. That's why we looked really deeply at those 17 SDGs, that where do we have the largest impact, and we chose those 4. It could be 5, it could be 7, it could be 3, but that's a decision we made. That's where we as a company find we have the largest impact, that's where we want to work.
Another question from the chat is, how are you going to measure success? So for example, are you just targeting to reduce emissions, or do you have specific goals, KPIs as we say, to actually measure your success over time?
Yeah, actually for all these 20 topics we have KPIs in place. Not all of them are public. So that's internal documents, but we have KPIs, of course, for all these 20 topics. The management gets an improvement plan, gets a CSR improvement plan every year on their desk. But on the other side, some will be public, and that's actually work that is being done right now. So we hope that by by mid-end of this year, we really also will show some quantitative targets to the exterior world, where we want to reduce some factors. I showed you which are the core topics that are chosen, and we really hope to get some quantitative targets on those. So we have KPIs for all of those 20 topics. Not all will be made public, but some will be within this year.
A lot of people actually think that sustainability or ESG is just about the environment. But as you pointed out, it is so much more. It is not just diversity, it is not just governance, it's a full set of KPIs. But let me pick out one specific goal on the E dimension, on the environment, and that's the net zero target by 2050. Do you have a goal like that? And what do you think of such a goal on principle?
We are working on this, and I cannot give you exact figures yet because it will be the board of directors making that decision. But it's pretty clear that Bachem too will have an ambitious goal for greenhouse gas emissions too. Again, it's the board of directors to decide, and it has not yet been decided. That's why I can't tell you what exact the goal will be. But of course, we will have a goal in place for greenhouse gas emissions. It's also our one of our associations, like Science Industries in Switzerland, said already yes to the 2030 net zero greenhouse gas emissions goal, which is in the Swiss strategic goals from the country. So it will go into that direction, but I can't tell you the exact figure yet.
Another question from the chat, and I think you kind of alluded to it during your presentation, is why you are addressing the issue now. Sustainability has been a topic for months, if not years. Why are you going live now?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not that we haven't been doing anything, Simon. So Bachem has always assigned a great importance to sustainability, be it cultivating careful use of resources or taking care of protecting health and safety of employees. I mentioned in my presentation that Bachem has upheld its commitment to the Responsible Care Program for over 2 decades. So sustainability, no, is not something new to Bachem, but actually triggered, to be honest, triggered also by customer requests. Bachem's executive committee decided in 2018 to, let's say, more systematically address its corporate social responsibility performance and primarily actually make its already great efforts public and visible. So we are not right at the start. We have been doing this for decades. As I said, safety, health, environmental protection, like a good company is doing that. But putting it on another level now, putting it into a strategic level, into a management system, and talking about it, communicating about it, that's the new thing actually now.
And related to that, where would you see the greatest areas for improvement over the next few years? Well,
you saw the core targets I pointed out. We are very good on the way. Looking at all these topics, but I guess that within these topics, energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions, we have to take our share on these topics and help reduce global warming. So I think that's where we have to do something as Bachem as well.
Great. At this point, there are no further questions on the chat. Thank you very much, Franz, for the presentation, and thank you very much for to the audience for attending this webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact the team at Bachem. You see the email on the screen, or by any other means of today's modern technology. So thank you again, Franz. Thank you from my side for having me, and I wish you all a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everybody.